welcome back to OC Outdoorsman. Well, I've returned to Prado Lake this morning. It's a little after 8 a.m. Air temperature is 40 degrees. It is chilly. But the sun's coming out, so it's going to start warming up. Water temperature is 55.3 degrees. Right now, I am just going to be circling this lake looking for schools. If I'm unable to find any schools, I brought my carp fishing gear with me, so that is my contingency plan. I will be doing some carp fishing here if I'm unable to find any trout. Hopefully I'll be able to land something today. I've always been skunked on this lake. Man, it's getting warm. At this point, I'd been pedaling for over 2 hours and metered nothing on my fish finder, so I had to take off my jacket and I continued searching for fish. Well, I tried everything today and man, I cannot figure out this lake. Every time I've come here, I just can't catch the trout. So I'm going to call it a day. Man, it was tough. Fishing was tough today. As they say in real estate, location, location, location. And the same applies really when you think about it to fishing. If you find a really good spot, it's going to be a great day. And today just wasn't my day. I could not find a decent fishing spot. And in fact, as I was going around the lake, very few anglers were catching fish. All for except one group. And I'm going to chat with them momentarily. And man, they had a great day today. All right, guys, look at this stringer. Oh,
it's a day, dude. Uh-oh, did it break?
Oh yeah, careful there.
Got it? Yeah.
Caught 2 catfish. Look at that stringer. So Kevin and Eric,
yeah, bro.
welcome to OC Outdoorsman, and look at that stringer.
Prado, man.
Killed it.
Oh, look at this fish.
Oh man, and that's a 5.5 pounder, right?
5.5 pound.
Did you 2 feet. Did you weigh the catfish?
No, not yet. Bring scale over right now.
It's a good sized catfish too. Hey man, hey, thanks for sharing and great job again, guys.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'll see you again out here.
Yeah, we'll see you soon, brother.
All right, take care.
Have a good day.
Hey, welcome back to OC Outdoorsman. I'm at Irvine Lake this morning. It's around 7:30 a.m. and look at how packed it's gotten. It's kind of hard to see from this distance, but the shoreline is just packed with anglers over by the dam and dock area. And this is a Friday morning. It's not like it's a weekend or anything, but a lot of people on the lake. There in the distance is the dock. That is the hot spot. That's where all the trout are. They just stocked this week, so because they are only open Friday through Sunday, people just flock over here as soon as it's open. So yep, I got here a little after 7 and so I don't think I'll target trout today. Where I am, you'll see there are fewer people here. It's because there aren't many trout on this part of the lake. So my focus today will be on carp. Let's see, what is the temperature this morning? It is 52 degrees, not as cold as yesterday, but still kind of chilly. Again, since I am carp fishing, I'm not really focusing on trout today. I can share with you a bunch of different tips. All right, here's another tip for powerbait fishermen. Now, here's some relatively old bait. It's been over a year, but I kept it really tight, the lid, and it is kind of borderline usable. So when I scooped out some of this bait, now you can see I can roll it into a ball, but it kind of comes apart. However, it's still usable. And by that I mean it still floats. So basically, once you get a chunk of PowerBait, you could either roll it up into a ball, or some people kind of knead it into like a worm-like shape. But what's important, and what I like to use when casting out PowerBait, is this, I think this is like a number 8 treble hook, super small treble hook. Yeah, the PowerBait stays on these hooks much better than your traditional J hook. I've caught fish using number 8 mosquito hooks, but after one cast you typically have to check it or make sure it's on there. Oftentimes you will lose the PowerBait, it'll fly off. But when using these little treble hooks, they stay on much more securely. They hook the fish pretty well. Now again, the way I set this up, it's a Carolina rig. I have a split shot about 18 inches of leader, and the PowerBait will float. You have to make sure it floats. You need to test it before casting, especially if you're using older PowerBait. I recall years ago, one of my buddies, Dave, I forgot my PowerBait, and he had a bunch of old jars, so he let me use some of his PowerBait. And I didn't bother checking, I just cast it out, and I was not catching fish. So finally, I tested it out. I just dipped it into the water, and the PowerBait just sank straight to the bottom. The whole idea behind PowerBait is it needs to float. And that's why I have this Carolina rig set up this way. It really depends on the length of the grass on the bottom. You want it to float above the grass. So if it's really long down there, you may want to go up to 2 feet or more of a leader. But generally 18 inches is a good length when setting up your PowerBait. While I was talking to you guys, I noticed that my rod just bent over, and thankfully I had the bait runner reel on, and this fish just took off towards the center of the lake. I had to speed up the footage because it took me a while to bring him in. This time I loosened my drag, so I did not try horsing this fish in like I had done in the past, and I managed to land him. Once again, I forget my reading glasses, so it was very difficult to see the readings on my manual fish gripper, the scale on there. So I put it on my digital scale, and the batteries must have been really weak because it kept flaking out on me, and I could not get a reading on the digital scale. So I ended up switching back to my fish gripper scale, and from what I could see, he weighed in well over 10 pounds. These fish put up such a tremendous fight. They are so fun to catch, but now it's time to release them. Yeah, those GX2 rods are great for carp. They're flexible so that you can cast out further, and they're super strong. So I've paired that, as you know, with the Daiwa M-Cast, which is a bait casting reel, spinning reel, and it's a perfect combination for carp. Alright, as I mentioned the other day at Laguna Lake, I was mainly using mice tails, and my recommendation was to use or build your own mice tails. So I brought along a couple. So these are what you're looking for. So here are chartreuse. This is green chartreuse. So you want to get the worms separate from the Berkeley PowerBait eggs. Now what was working that day was like these white eggs, but they come in different colors, much like the worms. They come in pink, chartreuse, all sorts of different colors. But here's the key. Now this is a number 8 mosquito hook. What you want to do when building these mice tails is add the egg first. Now, what I like to do is I'll put them on the hook. So let me do this really quickly. Run it up the stem very close to the eye of the hook. You can see it's right at the very top. What's really important is when you thread the worm onto the hook, you just want to use the very tip of the worm. So let me show you here. Not even a quarter of the tip, maybe an eighth of an inch. Thread it up all the way to the point where it's touching the power egg. You see that? There's a good amount of hook still exposed. That is what you want when building your own power mice, or sorry, mice tails. They sell these mice tails with the egg attached to the worm, but that limits your options. You're stuck with whatever they give you. Here you can mix and match the different colors until you find one that works. And that day at Laguna Niguel, the white worms paired with, I started with the pink egg, was the go-to combination. But you can experiment, so that's the benefit, that's the advantage of using or getting the worms separate from the eggs. Just get a bunch of different colors of each and mix and match, and eventually you'll find a combination that works. Now once you get the mice tail set up, you dip it in some sort of garlic scent. I like bite on garlic, but they sell all sorts of different types of scents. But get garlic, dip it in, and then cast it out. If you're sticking with Berkeley Power products, they will float. Now, after every cast, when you reel back in your mice tail, again, before you recast this out, test it to make sure it is floating. Like this one right now, when I brought it back in, I tested it and it was sinking back to the bottom. So I'm gonna have to replace this. So don't assume that they will float constantly. Sometimes you'll have to put in a fresh power egg and a fresh trout worm. And again, if you don't want to compromise the floatability of these eggs and worms, keep everything on the stem of the hook. Try not to go up too high into the eyelet. Okay, again, I'm using a fresh worm now. And you want to, again, when you feed it through the hook, just use the upper quarter or eighth. I try not to go too far into the worm when I'm feeding it into the hook. So just the very tip. And again, before you cast it, test it. Make sure it floats. Here I'm doing a really quick float test. You can see that as I place the worm in the water, the sinker goes straight to the bottom, but the egg and trout worm remain floating at the top. That's what you want to see. What I have found from using mice tails over the years is that after 2 or 3 casts, the mice tail tends to lose its buoyancy. So it will start to sink towards the bottom after only a few casts. I can't stress this enough. Test the floatability before you recast your mice tail, because if it sinks straight to the bottom, you're not going to be catching any trout. As you can see here, I'm dipping the mice tail into the water to make sure it floats before I make my cast. Always do that when using mice tails. Now, because of the 1 rod per angler rule for this lake, I need to bring in my other line. And just like that, I land my first trout of the morning on the mice tail. Now, as much as I love trout fishing, I'm not a big fan of cleaning and preparing them for a meal. So here I'm donating my fish to these folks. Well, it was another slow fishing day, but at least I managed to land 2 fish. So I've wrapped things up. I'm gonna head out and call it a day. This is generally how it goes for the first few months of the year. I spend a lot of my time freshwater fishing. I'm not on my yak very much until March. That's when rockfish and sheephead fishing opens up again. Here's a scary sight. You can see this used to be all water, but again, because of the drought, it's all now vacant. But check out the burn marks. This is where the recent wildfires came through. You can see the black and scorched areas where the fire came through. And on the drive up to this lake, you'll see just on both sides of the road where the fires just scorched everything. Yeah. That's a major problem here in California, the wildfires. Oh, look at that hawk. Searching for prey. Alright, I'm approaching the west shore entrance. You can see here. I'm thinking maybe I should try that east shore next time. I've never really fished that side of the lake since they reopened it, so I'm curious now to see if fishing would be any good there, especially for carp. I forgot to show you guys this sign earlier. So notice they're only open Friday through Sunday. Here's a little map of the lake. Oh man, I'm beat. All right, where did I park?